Okay, this week with amines, we are going to start our first suffix group. So called because they replace ane as the end of our alkane naming. So amines, this is the letter M, they are the lowest priority. So in order to name these, we have different kinds of suffix groups, and some have higher priority than others, and we're working our way up the list. Whatever has higher priority is going to be the suffix. Anything else is going to be one of the prefixes, sort of like the halogens and the methyl ethyl propyl groups and so on. So the way it works is you just have your alkane chain as normal, and then you have, so this is the general form. I'm going to be using this a lot. This is R. It's just a variable. It's a stand-in, sort of like X or Y or Z in algebra. It just represents any organic compound. Okay, it could be anything from H. It could be CH3. It could be an OH. It can be anything at all. But in this case, what it's meant to say is it's just some compound with an NH2 group attached to it. That's an amine. Okay. So the smallest amine would be H3C, NH2. And just one carbon bound to 3 hydrogens and an amine. So this would be methanamine. Okay. So that is what you do with a suffix group, is you just tack it on to the end there. Okay, it varies depending on the suffix group, but there you have it. Okay. So here we have something more complicated, NH2. So this would be propan 2 amine. Okay. So just when you have an amine, you just put amine there on the end, and you indicate where it is using the number. Now, as always, if you have more than one, then it becomes diamine, triamine, tetramine, and so on. Now, notice that I said tetramine and not tetraamine. We don't like having 2 A's in a row because that sounds really stupid, so we just drop one of the A's for the amines. Now, notice that you have to put the number on for this guy, no matter where it is, because it could be propan 1 amine. So this isn't like the methyl group that can only show up in one spot. You're always going to have to put the number on there. Now, in addition to changing the suffix, this also kind of changes the rules for how you decide which chain is the main chain. So the main chain always has to include your suffix group. Okay. In this case, the main chain is going to be this guy right here. Okay. And that would include the suffix group anyway. But if you draw something similar, now what would have been the longest chain no longer includes the suffix group, so you have to choose a different chain. Namely, you have to choose the longest possible chain that includes the suffix group. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is, so starting here, if you go here, then you have 10 carbons. If you go here, you have 10 carbons. So now we choose based on, similar rules. It is, which one has more side chains. Okay. This one, if you come up here, you have 1 side chain. Now this one down here has 2, so this one is better. And then you just name it as normal. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Numbering priority is going to go to the suffix group. Okay, so this is going to be the first one, and this is going to be number 10. So it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 3 heptyl, 4 methyl, decan, no double bonds or anything, 2 amine. Okay, so remember, main chain, if you have a suffix group, make sure it includes the suffix group. So 1 main chain always includes the suffix group. 2, you find the longest chain with, I'm going to abbreviate a bit, the suffix group. 3, if you have multiple options, chain with most substituents. Okay, so in this case, side chains and other things, non-suffix groups. And finally, numbering gives priority to suffix group. Okay, so you want the suffix group to have the lowest possible number. Okay, and again, if multiple numbering options, first difference. Okay, so we've been going with, excuse me. Okay, you number right to left, left to right. Which one do you choose? The one that gives the lower number the first time you find a difference, going alphabetically through the substituents, right? So that rule will still apply after you look at the priority group, the suffix group. Okay, so for example, this right here. Okay, the main chain, no matter what, it's going to be a butane chain. Then you have an amine side chain, and then you have this methyl side chain. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add one more. So now it's a pentane chain. The reason I did that is because either way, counting from either end, the amino group is going to be at number 3. So now, do we count from left or right? Well, we count from left because it gives the lower number to the methyl group. Okay, so it's 2 methyl pentan 3 amine. Whereas if you counted it the other way, it would be 4 methyl pentan 3 amine. Okay, 2 methyl is better than 4 methyl. That's where the difference is. So you number it from left to right. Now, there is one final difference to keep in mind, and that is, what if you have multiple suffix groups that cannot all fit on one chain? So let's go ahead and put NH2, NH2, NH2. Okay, so there's no way to get all 3 of these guys on a single chain. Well, you pick the chain that gives you the largest number of suffix groups, and then you go for the longest chain, and then you go for the most side chains, and so on. So no matter what, we're going to have 2 amine groups. And from there, it's a question of the longest possible chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so the longest possible chain with 2 amines is this guy right here. So that's our chain. And then we have a methyl group. And up here we have a side chain that has another amine on it. So what do you do when the amine is not going to be counted as part of the suffix? Okay, these two are part of the suffix. Okay, so suffix, suffix. But this guy is not. This is not, part of the suffix. So it's going to be treated as another side chain. Same as if there were a higher priority suffix group that turned all 3 of these into side chains. Okay. So when the amine is not in the suffix, you call it an amino, and it becomes a prefix. Okay, so just like you have chloro, fluoro, or iodo, or bromo, okay, then you can have an amino group. So methyl, ethyl, amino. Okay, but when it's a suffix, okay, so prefix, it's amino, suffix, it's amine. So we have 1, 2, 3. Priority for side chains is still going to go to the point of attachment. So that makes this a 2-amino propyl. So now in terms of numbering, our priority still goes to the suffix groups. So the diamine, going left to right, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 7 diamine. And coming right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that'd be 4, 8. So we are numbering it left to right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's going to be 5, 2-amino propyl, 6 methyl decan, 3, 7 diamine. So we have stepped up the complexity a bit here, just because now we have suffix groups, and those change the way we do things. Basically, what they've done is they've added a couple of extra rules on the beginning of the rules you already knew. Okay, you still want longer chains after you've found the suffix group, after you've found the longest possible chains with the largest number of suffix groups. Okay. So let's see if I can't write that out explicitly for you. So 1, identify suffix group with priority. So right now you only have the one suffix group that has priority. That's, the amine. But we'll be adding more later, so let's go ahead and just throw that on there at the moment. 2, find chain with largest number of suffix groups. Okay. So if you have multiple examples of that suffix group in the molecule, find the chain that includes the largest number of them. 2A. Let's see. If tie, go with longer chain. to be if tie more side chains. Okay. So if you have 2 or 3 or 4 possible chains with the largest number of suffix groups, go with the longest possible chain. If you still have a tie, if you have multiple chains with that number of suffix groups that are the same length, you want the larger number of side chains. If it's still a tie, break down and cry. So next step, you're going to name side chains for number the chain. Okay. For A, lowest number for suffix groups. That's S. Okay, if either numbering works for the suffix group, then for B, go with lower number at first difference. Okay, I need to work on my cursive. Okay, so that's just meaning, you put them in alphabetical order, and then you start numbering them. The first time you encounter a difference between the two possible numbering systems, go with the one that gives you the lowest number the first time there's a difference. And as before, rings and chains, this hasn't really changed anything. Priority goes to a ring unless the chain is the one with the suffix group. Okay. So in this case, it is 2-cyclohexyl propan 1-amine. If they both have an amino group, then the priority goes to the ring. So this would be 2,1-amino prop 2-il cyclohex and amine. The amino group doesn't need a number for the ring just because it's the suffix group, so it's going to be number 1 just by default. All right. So we'll get more practice in class, of course, but that is how you name things with amino groups. As a side chain, it's an amino group. As a suffix group, it is an amine. And generally speaking, we call these alkanamines, or just more commonly, amines. All right. And that is it for naming amines. See you in class.